Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Prospects and Short One. My name is Chris, and today joining me we have, and we're going to talk to you guys a little bit about one of the Lions' undrafted free agents today. His name is Bobby Price, and I wanted to do a separate video on him in particular for a number of reasons. First off, because his athletic testing was absurd. In fact, I'm actually going to see if I can pull it up on Twitter real quick for you guys, what his RAS scores and all that stuff was. But he was a freak athlete when he did his testing. And I probably should have done this before I started recording, but oh well. Why isn't it coming up? Maybe it's... I know that Kim posted it earlier, so I know he has it up. Oh, Billy Price, god dang it. You know what I'm going to have to do is I'm just going to have to go to this page. Because I know I posted this earlier, and it was really eye-catching.
I got it. Do you want me to send it to you? It's actually just a couple scrolls, so.
Oh yeah, by the way, plug for Cat while I'm scrolling through here. He's doing an awesome job with his draft stuff. And definitely, highly recommend following him if you guys don't already. There it is. So yeah, there you guys go. As you guys can now finally see here, he is an absurd athlete. 995 vertical, 975 broad, 920 shuttle, 852 3 cone, 946 40, 912 20, somehow under 9 in the 10-unit split. So plus, also at the same time, elite height and weight. So, and the arm length, everything like that. He tested off the charts. And apparently, per this article here from 5th quarter, he actually tested in poor weather, or at least weather that they weren't expecting, which I would assume would be poor weather. So, very impressive for sure. And I talked a little bit about this. I don't know if it was recorded, it probably wasn't. But I talked about in the Lions group chat how one thing that the Lions really kind of need to do, and I think it went, you know what, it might have been the Slack chat, in the DLP chat, is one thing that the Lions have kind of always done, or, well, not always done, something that we need to do, rather, is find kind of this unique way to find talent. And everyone talked about like how basically the one thing, like, unless we like go to Africa and we start finding kids from Africa, like we're not going to have like some unequal access to talent and blah blah blah. Because I talked about like what really sparked this discussion for me was when I was watching the Russian 5 video. And the Red Wings, you're familiar with that, right, Keelan? And how the Red Wings were like the first team to really like start going and signing kids from Russia to bring to the AHL.
Yeah.
And I talked about
Indeed.
how like that could kind of be like this weird thing for the Lions. And how like the Lions kind of need to find a weird way to be like that and kind of exploit the talent market. And find like under the radar players who are not going to be really all that highly coveted. And so it wasn't long after that I watched that the Combine came on. And they officially announced the first ever HBCU Combine. which was canceled due to coronavirus. So, of course, then this happens. So, I'm really, really intrigued by what the Lions could do with targeting players from HBCUs. And it's definitely something that most NFL teams, especially recently, it was a little bit of a thing back in the day, a long time ago. But recently, it hasn't really caught on as a trend. So I'm very much wondering if HBCUs are kind of that hidden market talent stream that the Lions can exploit to kind of separate ourselves from the rest of the pack that other teams just simply aren't taking advantage of. And if we can find a couple of studs, even just like 2 guys, 3 guys, that can really come in and be contributors from this HBCU market that other teams are completely overlooking and not paying any attention to, that's an advantage that we have over other teams as Lions fans, as Lions front office and staff and scouts. That can really put us ahead of the rest of the pack and stay at the forefront of scouting and of the future. So I'm really, really excited about the fact that we decided to go after someone from this type of under the radar type of market, and finding someone who can be a stud from an HBCU school is very, very exciting to me. To kind of hopefully get us that starting point to kind of get into that market and really, really hopefully keep an eye out for these players in the future, especially if they bring the HBCU combine back in 2021. So, with that said, here's a little bit of information on him.
Hey, can I interrupt you? I just have to deal with something really
Okay,
quick.
go
I'll
for
be
it.
right back.
So here's a little bit of information on him from his coach says here, 4-year starter, which is again something the Lions highly covet, and leader that was not afraid to challenge his teammates. Sounds like a perfect culture fit for the type of players that we really want to bring in to this system and the player that we want in our locker room. So that was really nice to see as well. Also, multi-sport athlete, as you can probably tell by the athleticism, he plays track or ran track. Also played some basketball, which is kind of unique and cool. So that's really nice. Outdoor track championship in long jump, and you can tell with this broad jump, and especially his vertical jump, that is definitely translating. So has all the upside in the world from the athleticism standpoint. Some teams say they like him at safety, some teams say they like him at corner because of his length. So again, kind of that thing where he has the versatility, right? We talk about that all the time here as well, that multiplicity to be able to play multiple positions, and the physicality and the length. We talk about that all the time. And even Jeff Okuda was a perfect example of that. And realizing that arm length was something that was really going to set him apart from the rest of the class. So that's really cool to see that he has those types of traits as well. Production, 7 passes is really nice. 4 forced fumbles, which is again something we really emphasized last year as well. We got to see a lot of punch outs. The Kansas City game, I keep referencing that over and over again. We really got to see that emphasis on the forced fumble. Last Norfolk State player selected, a name that should be very familiar to Lions fans, and Don Carey. When they're going to Cleveland, but of course played for the Lions for a long time as a special teamer here. So it would be really, really nice to see if we can go back into that. Well, of course, Don Carey was more of a Caldwell type, and Mayhew was the guy that really brought him in. But if we could go back to that well and exploit that market, that's something I'm really looking forward to seeing how he ends up working out here. So one thing I will also go into, apparently they actually have a draft profile on him. Unfortunately, of course, there's no tape. It's a HBCU school. That's kind of to be expected. So we can't watch any tape of his, but we do know his athleticism numbers, and hopefully this will help us shed a little bit of a light on what he can bring in terms of traits. I was able to find like a 2-minute highlight reel of his, like 1 to 2 minute highlight tape, and he looked like a really, really good tackler. Really did a nice job with the wrapping roll and the technical refinement in that area. And it's a highlight tape, so he really laid some hits. He definitely showed off his ability to lay the boomstick, and his athleticism really showcased, of course, in highlights as well. So that was something that was kind of exciting from a highlight standpoint to pay attention to.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
So yeah, they have a little bit about his production and stuff. We already kind of touched on that with the last piece that we looked at. Talk about his athletic ability, of course. Likes instincts and coverage IQ, which is something that will hopefully come with experience and development and time in the system. Hang traits for safety, explosive, twitchy, length and speed, athletic, athletic, range, athleticism, length. So yeah, definitely has the ceiling. It just seems like one of those kind of guys who has a little bit of a lower floor. Of course, doesn't have downhill here's okay, that's kind of interesting. I've only seen highlights of him, so I will say that the highlights I've seen of him are kind of the opposite of that, but that's why they're highlights. Lacks backside hustle and run support, which is disappointing, but hopefully that can be coached up. Especially if he's a leader, you would think that he would be kind of one of those guys that would be able to fill that kind of void. Below average balance and space balance. Okay, that must be more of a corner thing. He's lost in man coverage. Yeah, I would view him as a safety here for sure. Budget section provides great confusion. Yep, coverage recognition is going to be, or route concept recognition is going to be a thing, but I'm more worried about that as a corner. Ends up guarding grass more than he should. Okay, so that means that he's basically a zone defender, which is, again, more of a safety trait. And loses track of play action, so just mental coverage recognition, all that kind of thing, football IQ and development. And that'll come with time, that'll come with experience. And hopefully we are patient enough to be able to kind of work with him on that kind of thing. Whether that be a practice squad body, whether that be a, uh, a gunner role where he just has to basically out-athlete players. We talked about Don Carey with the last article, and being that type of player. If he can be a gunner, just utilize that athleticism, stick on a team. Maybe he takes a couple snaps at safety once in a while. Maybe he's an emergency guy due to injury. Maybe J-Ron Curse is suspended because of his off-the-field issue that he had. And he has to play a snap or two. He makes the team's fifth safety as a special teamer, inactive type. Curse gets suspended. He has to bump up to the active roster, plays a couple snaps. Like if he can do that for us and kind of just be in that kind of thing, his ceiling is off the charts with that athletic ability and length. So I really think that he has the upside to be that kind of contributor, and really, it's just a way to test the market and see what we can get out of these HBCU schools, and hopefully we can kind of find an under the radar talent pool and pipeline there that not many teams try to access. And we talked about in the who was the defensive tackle we just watched? Cornell, yes, that's his name, from Ohio State. We talked about how we're making Ohio State one of those pipeline schools, and how we're able to keep going back to the well and back to the well and back to the well for talent. If we can do that kind of thing with HBCUs in a way that other teams don't, every team knows about Ohio State. Every single team has watched several games of Ohio State, time and time again. Probably has every single Ohio State player who's on that team last year on their draft board. I don't think many teams have any HBCU players on the draft boards. So if we can be that team that kind of breaks that mold and decides to be innovative and take a chance next to these guys, and a couple of them work out, even as special teamers, even as rotational pieces, just to give us that extra edge and depth, that's really going to help us stand apart from some of these other teams going forward and long term. So, Keelan, I know you probably haven't seen any of him, but do you have anything that you want to add about the potential and the ceiling and the athletic ability and the HBCU type of?
Well, looking at Kent's RAS thing, that's ridiculous. That's an amazing RAS, and I mean, it's a really low risk, high reward type here. You pick him up in as a UDFA, and I mean, if he doesn't have a good preseason, you put him on your practice squad or whatever. But if he somehow emerges, he can be a depth safety, and I feel like this is definitely a great guy to pick up just from his athleticism. It's just he has a really high ceiling.
Yep. So there's one guy I'm going to save to do a full actual tape breakdown on because I know there's tape of him because he's many people's number one player in his position. So without spoiling who that is there any other undrafted free agents that you kind of wanted to hint at and talk about that we signed?
I'm trying to remember who we signed. Let me
the Auburn punter. He'll probably end up actually being our starting punter. Booming leg, Australian football player, so he definitely has some unique qualities about him as well. Older guy, 27 years old, so that would be interesting to follow him and see what he ends up becoming. Hopefully he can end up winning the job outright over Wyling Fox. Jeremiah Densing is the other guy I really liked from Auburn safety. Absolutely horrendous testing, which is why he's an undrafted free agent. His RAS score was like 0.4 or something. His testing was one of the worst I've seen, but his tape was second round, third round tape. I really, really loved his tackling ability. He looked like an Aztec backup. Probably one of those guys who will be behind Tracy Walker if he ends up making a team. It's kind of that run defending type of in the box safety. I'm just gonna go back and make sure I'm not pressing over anyone in particular. Iowa State long snapper as well.
Jalen Elliott, I think he was the team captain and safety from Notre Dame. High character guy. Whatever.
Yep, and then the Iowa State long snapper Stephen Wortell apparently has a perfect snap streak that goes back to his first snap that he took in high school. So
interesting.
I don't know if he's going to have a chance to make the team because we obviously have Don Muehlbach extended for another year. But if we keep him on the practice squad and Muehlbach retires, I would expect him to be the favorite to win the job in 2021.
Yep.
So, Aaron Sapos or Sipus, however you're going to see that, is probably the favorite to win the punter job. Wortell definitely has the potential to win the long snapper job in 2021. Luke Sellers probably going to be competition for Bowden. I think Bowden's going to be able to beat him out. But just for the competition and that whole process that goes along with that, and Denson as well. So
cool.
Yeah.
But I definitely.
You go.
Sorry. Definitely a lot of guys that have decent upsides. They can you can put them on the practice squad and see what they turn into for their second year or whatever, and obviously low risk, high reward.
Yep. And I feel like the one thing that we did is because of, in part, lack of roster spots, in part because of the quarantine, we really did a nice job of really going after these quality UDFAs rather than signing 100 billion UDFAs. Like, we didn't leave like
Right.
50 roster spots open and going, oh yeah, we're going to sign like 35 UDFA guys to try out and make the team. Yeah. We got a couple of quality players who can be good contenders for the practice squad and really challenge their backups for roles, and more importantly, just add guys to the preseason roster who will be able to really add an energy and spark to this team during workouts and the grind process that is whatever training camp is going to be this year. So, going to be fun to watch this team in preseason and see all these guys and what they're going to be able to do. Competition for the special team spots this year is going to be fantastic. I think I have my 47 active guys that I think I'm pretty comfortable are going to be on the active roster. It's really going to be the inactive spots that are the final 7 spots of the roster, as well as maybe special teams guys. Maybe like Bo Scarborough, who I have on the active roster, probably gets like an inactive spot for a special teams guy.
Right.
But it's really going to be the bottom end of that roster that's really going to be really competitive in training camp and the off season this year. So definitely looking forward to see what comes of that and those bottom of the roster spots, those inactives, those special teamers, and who's able to separate themselves during the preseason, during whatever mini camps we have, whatever virtual things we're doing, and that type of thing that that is going to happen during this off season. So, anything else you want to add about undrafted free agency and Lions this year and the draft class in general? I guess we can kind of clump it all together into this.
To me, this was a very successful draft in a year that Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia essentially have to save their jobs this year. So for me, I think this was a home run draft. They killed it with. They got their star corner, and then they filled their positions of need, and they grabbed some guys with a ton of potential. And I think this team could definitely contend this year.
Yeah, I'm really optimistic about what this team is going to hold looking forward. We're going to do a full offseason recap eventually, some point before whatever preseason happens in September. No rush, of course,
Right.
but we'll probably get Braden in. We might get Daniel and whoever else, but yeah. So
Cool.
we'll cover it more in depth and everything else like that down the line. I'm very interested to see how this team ends up looking at the end of the day, and hopefully we just can get a little bit of luck with health. Because for as much as we like the guys that we drafted on defense and the defensive interior guys with Cornell and Penasini and Shelton and Williams, and we have a couple of rotational guys
Right.
there. We have Bryant and Okwara and other Okwara and Flowers as our 4 X guys. We have some defensive line depth finally. We have some linebacker depth. Not really anyone stand out other than Collins, and Jarek has a ceiling, I guess. But like we have 5 guys who've played snaps at the NFL level before. Might even be 6 with Ragland and Tavai. We have a rotation of guys and guys who can fill their role, even if I don't necessarily like our philosophy of the linebacker position. And secondary is by far our deepest unit, maybe on the entire team. You have Okuda and Trufant and Coleman and Amani and Kurse and Walker and Harris, and Harmon. And there's 8 guys there that are quality NFL players in the secondary. So we have some depth on defense for sure to be able to hold and last, which will be nice for a change. The offense, even a little bit as well. We ended up going for 2 offensive guards to compete with the veteran free agents that we signed. We have Bo Benshaw, we have Bushi, the 2 guards that we drafted, Stenberg and Jimmy Jackson. Still have Joe Dahl as a holdover. We have Kenny Wiggins, I think we brought back.
We signed Garnett.
Yeah, Josh Garnett we signed early in the offseason, so we have really nice potential competition for guard spots. We have Tyrell Crosby in case Decker or Vaitai gets hurt at tackle. Not that he's not that great, but like he can fill in for a week or two while we wait for potential vet signing off this year or workouts or whoever as needed. So offensive line depth is finally there for the first time. Tight end room, more on that in a future video. But we have Jesse James and of course TJ Hawkinson is going to be our starter. So that room is looking really, really nice. Isaac Nauta has some potential as well. And then wide receiver room, we have our 3 starters back from last year, Kenny Marvin and Amendola. Plus we added Cephas. We still have Fulgham from the draft last year, who really showed some things, specifically on special teams and as a blocker. He was the number 1 run blocking wide receiver last year in the NFL. So definitely has some upside to continue to grow and develop there. And yeah, I really, really like what this team did with their running back room. We talked about that in depth in several videos already. But with Swift and Huntley, that's really going to transform our run game from a running back standpoint and allow us to add depth to that group behind Carrion and no more relying on UDFA running backs to kind of be the number 1 guy at times like Joy Bell and Zach Zenger. Whereas much of a cult hero as both those guys were, we finally have premium rushing talent in this locker room and in this team and in this city. The one thing that just isn't there is the quarterback room. And behind Stafford, Blouse started, and he was okay, I guess, for UDFA. Chase Daniel, we're paying to be a backup, but he's not going to win you games. So if Matthew Stafford were to get hurt again, we're sunk. And we say that every year because it's the same thing every year. That's the one issue with this team that I still have, is that we weren't really able to bring in a backup to compete with Chase Daniel. So Chase Daniel's basically allowed to be our backup, and David Blau has a chance to make the roster as QB3, but he's not going to beat out Chase Daniel. He's going to be a QB3 if he even makes the team. Right. So that's probably the most unfortunate aspect of the offseason at this juncture. But everywhere else, we added something. We added the receiver room with Cephas. We added the running back room with Swift and Huntley. We added the tight end room. We added a lot to the offensive line room with Vaitai over Wagner, with Stenberg over, well, to rotate with Dahl, I guess over Wiggins if he ends up being on Wiggins, and Jackson to replace Glasgow. We added to the defensive line group in a big way, mainly because we lost a lot in a big way, but we added Penasini to replace Snacks. We added Cornell to, I guess, kind of replace Daniels if we aren't able to bring him back. We added Nick Williams to be our A-Sean replacement upgrade. I would consider him an upgrade from A-Sean. So that group is developing for sure, younger, cheaper, more upside. The edge group got better even though I'm not the biggest fan of the Okwara signing, he's the best pass rusher we've had in this team in 3 years. So that's nice to see. Even if he's not going to be as good as near as good as Canada in the run defense role. Maybe Brian takes a step forward there and develops as a second-year player. Linebacker group, at the very least, got deeper with the addition of Jamie Collins. Vaitai getting another year of development. Jared Davis getting a better coach should help. Competency from the coaching group with Mackenzie upgrading L. Golden. So that group should see a pretty good bit of self-improvement just from those changes alone. Collins, of course, being the big player personnel addition, and Ragland as well. Ragland will probably factor into that to some extent. Secondary group, yeah, we added Yokuda to upgrade Slay. We added Trufant to upgrade Melvin. We added Curse to upgrade Harris, who's still on the roster, who's going to push someone else off of it. We added Jaron Curse. We added Duran Harmon, who's going to be the over-the-top replacement. So, yeah, it's going to be very fun to see what ends up being of this team and these players. And we have a lot of turnover, but it's definitely for the better. After what we saw last year, this was a rough team who had a lot of holes, who had lost a lot of players.
Mm.
We cut Wagner, we cut Snacks. Who was the safety we cut?
Not
I
sure.
can't even remember who our starting safety was last year. That's how bad my memory is and how bad our team was last year. To be completely honest. But like, yeah, it was kind of one of those years where it was just like, yeah, it was fun to watch, and yeah, we showed improvement. We got better as a team. It's just we were missing stuff. We were missing a lot. We traded Darius Slay. We lost Ashon. We lost Daniels. We lost a lot from a bad team. Like,
Oh, you talking about Tavon Wilson?
oh, we lost Tavon. Yeah, we didn't cut him. We let him go. That's what it was. Yeah. So we lost Tavon at safety. We lost Slay at corner. We lost Melvin at corner. We lost Daniels. We lost Yax. We lost Ashon. Man, we lost a lot from that defense, and that defense was not good. So, getting a lot of turnover, a lot of additions, and a lot of quantity and quality was something that we definitely needed to do. And I feel like we were able to address that competently, at least in terms of upside and guys who can fill their roles and fill their niche and do their jobs. Meanwhile, the offense, on the other hand, was the opposite. The offense last year took a huge step backwards only because of Stafford being hurt. And even then, our pass game was still better last year with Chuck Driscoll and David Blau than it was under Jim Bob Cooter. We took a huge step forward in terms of play calling. We took a huge step forward in terms of the run game efficiency, even without Carry-On, who we also lost last year. We lost Marvin Jones for at least a good chunk of the year. I think it was 4 or 5 games. We lost Danny Amendola for a respectable chunk of the year. We lost TJ Hawkinson for a good chunk of the year. We lost half our offensive line for at least a couple of games. Specifically Wagner, who took a huge step backwards. And we ended up upgrading Wagner with Vaitai. We upgraded our running back room with Swift and Huntley. We upgraded our receiver depth with Cephas. We upgraded our tight end depth with another year development for Hawkinson, with another year development for Nauta and our UDFA signing. or key UDFA signing that we're going to talk about later. So,
Yep.
yeah, and of course we upgraded our offensive line in a huge way with our 2 draft picks, Stenberg and Jackson. So I'm really excited about
Right.
the strides forward and the progression of the offense to love that unit up from top 15, top half, whatever you want to call it, to a top 10, maybe even a top 5 unit if we have Stafford healthy for a full 16 games. So anyway, here we go. Taking a brief look here at the NFL.com analysis. Here, I'll let you guys read that. Yep. So, means that I ended up taking Okuda, Jeff Okuda, DeAndre Swift, Julian Okwara, Joey Jackson, Logan Stenberg, Quintus Cephas, Jason Huntley, Sean Prenacini, Jishan Cornell, and then a couple of the UDFA guys that we talked about already, as well as our full draft class. So, your thoughts on the Lions draft weekend and what this team can hold going forward?
Like I said before, I loved the draft. Filled a bunch of needs, got the consensus best running back in the draft, got my favorite corner since I don't even know, since Jalen Ramsey coming out. Yeah, I wasn't watching tape back then, so I'm being kind of conservative in that. So, but and arguably, in my opinion, a generational corner. And I don't like to use generational very much. Grabbed a lot of depth in the offensive line. We went over Jackson and Stenberg in past videos, and they were both opposite players in the fact that Stenberg was a terrific run blocker and Jackson was a terrific pass blocker, but they're both guys that will compete, and one of them will be starting at right guard. My guess is Jackson. And then Cephas was the next pick. Got depth at receiver. You got a terrific receiving back. You got 2 guys who can compete and play in a rotation at DT. I love this draft. If I had to grade it, I'd give it an A-.
I agree. That's where I had it as well.
Interesting.
So, with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this draft weekend as much as I did. Hopefully over the course of our Lions breakdown so far, you've learned a thing or two along the way and grown with us and continue to, I guess, enjoy following this draft process during the quarantine and this whole entire crazy thing going on. So,
Yep.
it's been a heck of a fun time with you guys, and I'll continue to pump out some 2020 videos, possibly on some of the other teams' draft picks, over the course of the next few months as we head into the preseason, whatever that might be, and transitioning into 2021 tape. But we do have one more guy we're going to take a look at for this Lions draft class, and then we'll be able to transition into the other teams and the other future draft. So with that being said, hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and thank you guys for joining us this year, this week, this month, and this draft season. But for now, have a fantastic rest of your day, and peace out.